Bonjour. Good. Ça va?
Hi, gents. Richard, just double check everyone's fit and available still, and nothing changed on that front.
Yep, we're in a good spot. Everyone trained today.
Great stuff. Obviously, everyone was clear with the fact that it was important to get the win, pleased to get it, but still room for improvement. There were sort of glimpses, I felt, though, in the match where it did come together, didn't it? So are there things you can sort of hang your hat on that you think are the basis of where you want to be for this weekend?
Yeah, I think the glimpses is the right way to describe it. Definitely not enough of the good stuff. Too scrappy, and a lot of stuff that we know has got to be significant improvement if we're going to win this quarterfinal.
Obviously, in terms of attack, people will always look at, or often look at sort of inside back situation, but actually, is it something that's more holistic than that? Does it kind of start at the breakdown and then filter along?
Yeah, exactly. I think for your attack, it's got to be all parts of it have got to be in sync. Otherwise, it'll break down. It might look like it's halfback. It might look like it's on the edge, but it could be something to do with breakdown or contact skills. So, yeah, I think attack more than anything is you've got to be in sync. You've got to be connected. Otherwise, some part of it breaks down. Speed of ball is not quick enough. You've not got the right options. You're getting two-man shots instead of one man, instead of inside shoulders. So all those things.
And obviously George and Owen went together. How did you appraise how they went last weekend, and so where you want them to go this week?
Yeah, no, first time in a while for them. They've played a lot of rugby together. They're two guys that I would lean on in terms of their knowledge and their expertise. How well they know the game, and they get on really well, which allows them to talk rugby and work things out, which I'm sure they'll do. And
not talking about selection, but in terms of whichever personnel sort of fill those slots of the weekend, I assume not too much would change anyway. Is that fair?
No, we'll adapt as ever. We'll pick the best team that we think will win this weekend. Obviously, things change with the makeup of the side, whether you have more of a ball playing 12 or more of a power 12, and that's right across the back line with different positions. So, as I said from the start, we have to pick the team that's right for this weekend, and then it's our job as coaches to give them the best platform that they can go out and show their skills off.
And Billy, for this weekend, these are the kind of weeks that, because Steve's been talking about, this squad's full of big game players who are well used to these sorts of big pressure weeks. Does there tend to be a different feeling in a camp in a week like this, and do you sort of expect that to be there again now?
Yeah, definitely. I think it's plain and simple that if you don't win this weekend, you go home. So there's definitely an edge to training. I already saw it today, and the way the boys are carrying themselves, and the meeting we had in terms of reviewing what Wiggy's talked about, but also taking that forward. Boys carrying that on their shoulders and making sure that there's a lot of improvement going into this weekend. You can see that already. So yeah, there's massive emphasis on the importance of this weekend, because, like I said, if we lose, then we're going home.
And sort of as a collective, and then maybe within that, as a collective, as a pack, is that something you can kind of, use as a big motivator that, if you set the right tone up front, then that'll go a long way to putting you in the positions you want to be in?
Yeah, definitely. Right? It's not just this week. The challenge is to do it every week and lay a platform for the backs. We pride ourselves on all our set piece work. We have targets within our own section in terms of our forwards, whether it's mauls or in our scrums and goals that we want to hit. So it's not different to any week, but there's just that added pressure on this week that if we don't nail them, then we could be going home.
And for you personally, how do you see your World Cup so far, and with what's gone so far and what's still to come?
Obviously, if I'm being honest, I would like to have played some more games, but in saying that, the team that I'm playing for is in the quarterfinals, so I'm happy to be involved. I'm happy to add in any way that I can, both on and off the pitch, and if that means we get through to the next round, then so be it. But in terms of my contribution, I'm just trying to give as much as I can, any way that I can.
Richard, has the nature of Saturday's performance changed your thinking and selection at all for this weekend?
Every week changes. I'd say Steve has final say on selection, but we always pick the team that for the weekend. All the information goes into that, and so last weekend won't be any different. I would say I just want to pick up on Billy's point. He got asked what he added and what he's done. I think him off the bench at the weekend, outstanding contribution he brought, but he talked around non-23 roles there as well, and what he added before he was allowed to play has been exceptional. I think that's filtered through the rest of the group. What it is, this is not. I know selection's important, guys. I know everyone wants to know what the 15 and the 23 looks like, but it's 33 that gets us where we're going, and that has usually changed on a week-by-week basis, depending on the opposition and what we've seen.
And Billy, you played alongside Sam Underhill in 2019, obviously. What sort of impact are you expecting from him for this week with a view to the weekend if he can get in the team?
Obviously, he's a great player, but like Wiggy said, we're just looking for him to add a different dimension to both training and if he gets a chance in the game. Obviously, it's a big loss to lose Willis, and he trained today, trained really well. I think he trained really well in the summer. I remember Steve referencing his name a lot in terms of how he trained, so he's in great shape, and it's good to have him here. He takes a lot of flack as well, so it's good to have him here.
Hi, Richard.
Hi, mate.
Can I ask about Owen? Aside from the sort of value he provides as a player and a leader, what is his, and maybe particularly from your personal experience having played alongside him, what's the particular value he brings in like a knockout week for these massive matches?
I think the term "he's a winner" probably gets thrown around quite a bit, but that is Owen. He under the harshest of pressures and the biggest moments, he tends to get better, and that's a sign of a winner. And he doesn't just get better; he tends to have more effect on the people around him as well, and what you get out of him. So, look, we know what gets said about Owen, highest ever England's point scorer. We know what he's delivered time and time again, and you know. Those players tend to catch the most flack for some reason, but we've got one of the best to do it. We're lucky to have him, and yeah, no doubt he'll have a massive impact on this week and this game.
Richard, in the game where you're playing against Botia and Tuasova, that breakdown area is going to be massive. Steve referenced it after the game at the weekend. In your analysis of referees, what have you learned about what kind of things Raynell will look for in that area?
Great question. So firstly, spot on breakdown. We need that to be as clean as we can. We know Fiji exceptional in that area. Being perfectly honest, you learn something different every game because they all will referee it slightly differently because of that's human nature. It's going to be slightly different. They want guys to get out of that tackle zone before you can compete. Fiji will tend to just compete and then and work it out from there. Whether they're slowing you down or they're taking it off you. So that's going to be a huge area of the game that we need to make sure that we are the best we've been, because it's definitely a super strength of theirs.
Billy, you've played in a lot of knockout games with Sarries, as have you, Richard, and coached in some too, and with England as well. Can you just explain, when you get it right, what it feels like or what the atmosphere around the team is when you're in these big games and you do nail it?
It's pretty simple, to be honest. When you get all your jobs right and you're in great unison, it feels easy. All the hard things, all the things that people don't look for in terms of work off the ball, when everyone's pushing that energy into the same direction, it becomes easy and it feels like you're just on top all the time. And even when things do go wrong, you can just feel that momentum behind you. And there have been times in games that I've been, played with Wiggy in one of them, and you've been under the pump, and you can look around, and you know everyone's on the same page, and you just stick it out, and you have that inner belief that you'll come out on the other side of it.
What games are you thinking of when you're talking about that? Are they Sarries ones, or are they this time 4 years ago, maybe Aussie and New Zealand?
Sarries one, the quarter final against Australia when they came back. I remember thinking to myself, we'll be all right, when Korobiti, I think, scored. And we ended up winning by a hefty margin. And the New Zealand one, I don't know what it was, you just felt the energy. And it started way before the haka started, I think on the Sunday after the quarter final. We kind of knew after that meeting that we were in for a big one.
Just as a last one, you will know as well as anyone that Fiji are going to be everyone's second favourite team, aren't they? And the French fans are going to love them doing well. Are you going to have to relish being the bad guys almost? And is that a position that you're comfortable being in as someone who's played for Saracens in England, and not a lot of people like either of those teams for some reason?
They're not like Saracens.
I wouldn't say Fiji's their second favourite team. I'd say England's their first least favourite team. So in terms of being public enemy number one, we're happy to take that mantle on. Seeing a lot of teams get talked up. Top four apparently there's a top four now in rugby, in international rugby. I didn't know there was a table, but we're quietly going about our work and confidently going about our work, and our game is to play well against Fiji. Sorry, our plan is to play well firstly against Fiji, and then deal with whatever happens after that. But Fiji's our main threat.
Richard, hi. Tom Curry was just saying England are a very different team to the one that lost against Fiji 6-7 weeks ago. Can you just talk about how you're a different team now to where you were then?
Yeah, I hope we are, because we've spent 6 weeks trying to get better and trying to fast forward things as quick as possible. A lot of the things Billy talked around what it's like in big game weeks. We're working out with each other on the run because we're all new together. I would say is that you got to create that feeling of like, this is the best week. You wouldn't want to be anywhere else, and got that from today. Like, that is like, this is where we want to be. This is the game we want. This is a game we want, and we will. Brilliant test for us to go against a team that beat us pre-World Cup, and when we were written off, for us to then, probably not just talk about being better, but let's go and be better.
And Billy, you were talking there about, always wanting more minutes. When you're in that sort of situation, is it easy to accept, what you're meant to accept, that it's about 33, or is it hard sometimes? Have you found it hard, or have you been able to sort of deal with it?
I'd be lying if I said it was easy, but what makes it better is that I know that the team's doing well, and that's the most important thing, is the team progressing. And like Wiggy said, we're in the quarterfinals. That's the most important thing. I could easily be on a flight home, having played 80 minutes every week. So I'd rather be in a team that is winning and is in a quarterfinal, and happy to be part of it.
Billy, with apologies for taking you back to La Rochelle, that day before your injury, Bossier had a pretty extraordinary performance against you. Can you just assess him as a player, how tough a challenge and how big an obstacle he is to England this weekend?
I think the best thing about him is his technique. He's got a very low centre of gravity, and obviously his speed. I don't think he plays 12 anymore, but as 12 who's now repositioned to 7, he's very fast around making the decision whether to go for the ball or not. Just his height. If you give him an opportunity, it becomes tough. But it's not just him. They've got other threats in terms of jacklers. They've got Tuisova. Their 9 loves a dabble. And there are other players in and around their team that, if the opportunity arises, like Wiggy says, if we're off a little bit in terms of our breakdown, then they are one of the biggest threats around the breakdown, not just this weekend, but in World Rugby.
Question for Richard. Your kicking game was very impressive and consistent during the first 2 games. The stats prove that. I read you won 1 more kilometer per game. It was not the case against Samoa. Does it mean your plan has changed, or?
Yeah, no, so it's a great question, because I think it's taken a French journalist to ask us about the kicking game, because we've seen some reports in their media this week about how impressive the French kicking game is and has been, and it is. First, I'd say even against Chile it was as well. Thought we played with a lot of variety that day, but we got out of our half in a ruthless fashion. So we definitely want to get back to that. We didn't do that against Samoa, you're right, and that was not intentional. That was one of the facets of the game that wasn't good enough from us, that we will make sure we're looking to improve.
Hi, Richard. At this stage of the tournament, players in the past at knockout stages, those on who haven't perhaps played that much, have a kind of realisation that they may not play again in the World Cup. But you talk about the 33 and sort of those 10 players being so important. Is this a time when sort of man management's key as well, to keep that momentum amongst those group of these guys perhaps who may feel that they may not get another chance?
Definitely, it's Billy talked around then saying it's not easy, and it's definitely not. And you won't want a player that takes it really well, would you? You won't want a player that just accepts it. Like these are top players in England. They expect to play, and rightly so, because the margins are really close in selection. And I've been on the other side of that numerous times, and it is not easy. So I'd like to think that I have some empathy with what they're going through, and everyone's different in that regard. Some people can just wear this mask and just doesn't matter, throw yourself into training. Some people it hits a bit harder, and there's no right or wrong, as long as your reaction ultimately ends up being about preparing the team in the best way. Because, as I say, the team changes week to week. You've got to be ready, as we've seen with Alex Mitchell, from not being in the squad to starting the games in the World Cup. There's all these situations coming. There's all these stories in rugby, from Stephen Donald winning a World Cup with New Zealand to there'll be numerous of them, and you can lean on those. But I wouldn't want to push a player to feel a certain way. They've got to be allowed to feel their own disappointment and their challenge, and then get behind the team as they have done from the start of this tournament.
Richard, you just mentioned Alex Mitchell. As a former scrum half, how would you describe his style, and how do you compare him to Danny Kerr and Ben Youngs, which we know a bit more about considering their experience?
Yeah, so he's in the squad obviously with the two most experienced nines ever to play for England. So a great position for him to be in, for him to be able to watch and learn from those guys. Alex is a guy who definitely doesn't show the pressure. Looks like he just loves playing rugby, quite refreshing, puts on the shirt and gives it everything. So been really impressed with how he's gone, how he's fitted in. Great personality around the squad, gives a lot of energy on and off the field, and as you'd want a scrum half to do, he's into everything. So he is all action. I think he's growing all the time. His decision making, what he's seeing, his effect on other players. Yeah, I think he's really growing into that England shirt.
And Richard, just one more quick one. Is anyone having to play the role of Bottia in training this week? And if so, will they get a prize at the end of it for taking a lot of punishment?
Yeah, so yeah, even if we got someone to do his role, it might not be as quite as effective as him. To be honest, we've done that from third or fourth week of pre-season. We've had you had to prep for Montoya versus Argentina. You had to prep for Rafael and Morgan for Wales before that. We've had guys who on the non-physical day just trying to touch the ball. They're just trying to get in there so that you're on red alert. There's not just knowing about the threat. There's all the shape stuff and where you've got to be and where you want to be and how quickly you react to different situations. There's the structured stuff that Botch is a big threat on, but then there's the unstructured. There's a kicking game where a ball bounces and then suddenly he's there. So how alert we are on the back of it. But to answer your question, yeah, there's definitely going to be people that are sticking their head in, but we tend to do it in a much more respectful part in training. We don't want to. It's more about the speed, and we'll use the intent and the physicality more on bags or in controlled situations, so that we're not. No one's got that job of getting filled in for 7 days. Thank you. Thanks all.